What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Put On Podcast. It's episode 19. We got my boy Cal there. What up, Cal?
It's good.
And joining us today, we got a special guest. This is my buddy, Mike Press. I'm going to do a little bio for you real quick, okay? If you don't mind. He's the owner and operator of 24 New York, an awesome store in Hudson Yards, and there's one down in the Oculus. Clothing and sneaker store. He's a world-renowned DJ. World-renowned. He's a Soul Cycle instructor. Are you still a Soul Cycle instructor or no?
Yeah, still
okay.
do.
Former host of 1:37 p.m.'s Bold Entrepreneurs. Now the host of the Who Is podcast. My dear friend, Mike Press.
Mike sounds like the utility guy.
Oh. He's a Renaissance man.
That's crazy.
And Mike, for everybody that doesn't know, why don't you give a little background and also how we know each other.
Yeah. So great list of all the things that I've done, and I'm pretty sure you missed about 22.
Right, exactly.
I did, but yeah, man, I'm happy to be on it, and it's been a long time coming for us trying to get this together. The way Derek and I met was I was lonely one night, and he swiped right, and we met up and decided to let's do a podcast at the same time.
Exactly.
But all jokes aside, no, it was I got approached by some of the people at 137 about a podcast that was going on. It was called Bold Entrepreneurs, as he said in the beginning. And Derek kind of saw something in me as a host. And from that point on, it was like we just really locked into each other, of always bouncing ideas off one another, constantly staying in contact, whether it had to do with the show or it didn't. Hung out a bunch of times, and Derek is now like a close person to me when it comes to anything related to media and business and talking and just an all around great guy.
I appreciate
Mike,
that. Yeah, go for it, Cal.
No, I was just gonna ask, Mike, had you done any hosting or podcasts or anything of that nature before Derek hit you up?
Before Derek had hit me up, I was always kind of in front of the camera just from acting and doing commercials and stuff.
Okay.
So me talking on camera was never anything hard for me to do.
No.
But having my own or being a part of a show where I was the host, no, that was the first time. And I thank him all the time for the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, and I'll get into a little bit more about that story later on. He also he's a model, right? Model, actor. What was it they used to do back in the day? Oh, you did you had that viral video with Bronny James, right? At the sneaker store, right?
Yeah.
Or at the sneaker convention.
Yep.
Yeah, Mike is one of these guys that he really has a lot of talent, and I think the world of him, and I know that he's got incredible potential to do great things. So I'm bullish on him. I said this in my last episode that I would buy stock in Josh Owings. I would buy even more stock in Mike Press because I'm a big believer in him. And I do want to say one last thing, which is one thing that you and Cal share in common is that you're two of the best at mispronouncing words. You guys butcher words left and right.
That's crazy.
Okay.
What?
I butcher words 50-50. And I'm going to tell you why I butcher words. One, because I make it funny so that you got clips to use later on. And two, I really just be messing up. Tuxin.
What word does Mike butcher? I feel like you have a word in mind that Mike
there
and
is no
myself.
word in mind, but we would record these shows and he would just there would be words, and obviously look, when you're on doing it live, it happens, right? You just mess up words, but we basically have a whole thing of outtakes that we could have done of just him and
no, there was one word with Carmen.
Yeah.
That I just kept messing up. And I can't remember what it was.
Oh, man. I can't remember what it was, too. But I remember that was the episode where you kept saying, but
I
we'll
can't remember what it was.
we'll think about it.
Yeah.
And by the way, look, I'm not perfect either. I do want to say this real quickly. In the last episode, right? So we do these put ons and we put each other onto things. So in the
Mhm.
last episode, I did a creator that I put Cal onto.
Mhm.
And
Bro.
like I'm like telling him all about this creator, and I said to him, because Cal sent me a video of this guy, right? It was this
Mhm.
guy named Cam Edwards, who you, Mike, would get such a kick out of. And
Yeah, he's the man.
yeah, he's so
Sounds
funny.
familiar.
And basically after the episode, like I'm watching back the episode before, and it turns out Cal had put me on to that creator. I just completely forgot about
I
it.
thought he was giving me my flowers. Like, this is a great creator. Thank you for putting me on. Did you see that one funny video? I'm like, bro, like I've been sending you these. Why are you like, what's
Look,
going on?
we all make mistakes, man. I don't know. I'm not perfect.
Music.
Let's get into the first put on segment. We're gonna start with music. Mike, we'll have you go first. Put
Mhm.
us on to an artist or music of your choice. Let's hear it.
So lately, um, I've just always been around music all the time, but lately I've gotten into Amapiano music. Amapiano is basically it's like R&B African house music, right? Um, you've probably heard it before, where it's like the Tyler song, like Water, make me sweat, make me holler, like it's that type of vibe, and you can just kind of like hear different songs even within that song, and you got to do the dance every time that you sing it. Make me sweat. But, but an artist also is that kid Four Bats. Have
Oh
you
my
heard about
gosh.
him?
That's so funny. That's who Josh put us
Yeah,
on to in the last
yeah.
episode.
Yeah, it was him because I'm a real big Brent Faiyaz fan,
Yeah.
and it's like hearing these guys come in and sing, but it's not really singing. It's just like you're talking in rhythm,
Yeah.
and I'm like, but can you really sing?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
guy is, I mean, that guy's amazing. Everybody's like really feeling that guy lately. I
But
have,
why?
I don't, I think it's the, first off, it's like that, juxtaposition of just
Hmm.
like, you see him, you think he's about to
Hmm.
lay down like some like
Hmm.
hardcore, like rap
Yeah.
verse. And then he's got the
Nope.
voice of an angel, like,
Yep.
so I think
Yeah.
that's part of it. But I mean, that's so, like some of his songs are so catchy. Like he's clearly,
Yeah.
he's talented. He's a star.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, music, I think today is very it's kind of almost feels like it's like one lane.
Mhm.
Like people hear the next hot thing and then everybody jumps on and does it.
That's on. Yeah.
But when I think about music, I think about the Sam Cooks, I think about the Bruce Springsteens, I think about the Fleetwood Macs. Like I think about everybody. There was so many artists, but you can easily distinctively separate each one. So when I think of music, I just think about like real like artistry behind it.
Yeah, Kyle, jump in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I think, we had a little bit of the conversation on the last pod with Josh, but I think just to your point, with there being such volume of artists pop in nowadays and how, we see people blow up and some people who maybe we think is more talented than others don't. And I think it's one of those things where, individuals having their own sound and the ones that you remember, you mentioned Bruce Springsteen and all these, like
Hmm.
you have to be unique and authentic to yourself instead of coming in and copying
Yeah,
a Drake or whoever it is that you think is doing it
yeah,
well. So yeah, I think that whole notion of like being authentic and having a unique voice and then making that your sound and really going and playing with that. Yeah, Forbats is super talented, but yeah, I think this is a super interesting conversation. Derek, you were gonna say?
Cal, before you do your put on, I wanted to ask Mike this question as a DJ, and
mm,
we were going to ask this question
Hold up,
to
hold
what?
up. What
What?
you say Mike's a DJ? I couldn't tell if you were joking. Mike, you're a legit
Yeah,
like
legit
DJ?
DJ, real deal.
yeah,
Yeah, he's very good.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. Um, so here's the question, Mike, and I think
Mhm.
we were going to ask this question to we interviewed a guy named the Hooligan who was a great guy, and I think
Yeah.
we did ask or we were going to ask, but
Mhm.
when the vibes are low at and you're at a club or whatever, What's the
Mhm.
song that is there a go-to song that you put on to kind of like set the party off?
Hmm. It's gonna sound crazy.
Okay.
Killing Me Softly,
Ooh,
Fuji's.
Really?
I like that.
Because
What?
when you get to a point, you get to a point within the night where like people's ears are just kind of like they need something else, right?
Yeah.
And you start people seeing people like drift off, they leave, there's no more like it is. And the go-to song I use is Killing Me Softly because that's the one song everybody will sing no matter what.
It's so true, man. And it's like when you hear that when that comes on, everybody knows the words. They all
Hmm.
want to sing it. And then when like the beat drops, it's great. But also,
Hmm.
it's interesting to me that you said that just because like whenever I think about the songs that like set it off, from a DJ perspective, what is it? The BPMs, like you want like the
Yeah.
ones that, and that
Hmm.
one definitely isn't like high BPM, is it?
Hmm. No, that is probably like 90 to like 95 BPMs. But because it's hip hop and even though it's soulful, it still gives you this
Right.
no
So
matter what.
so with you doing that, Mike, my question is, as a DJ, are you the whole time, like the whole set, looking at the crowd and reacting to what, the individuals in the club are doing? Or are you more so like go and do it, you have a plan and you stick to that? How does that work? Because you're doing like the dance.
Yeah,
Are you watching
I
how people are moving?
yeah, I watch the crowd. Because you could be in your own zone and you're like, yo, this is dope. I'm killing. And then you look up, nobody's out
Right.
there. Like everybody just kind of like dispersed and you're like, oh, okay. Because I've gone into parties and clubs and stuff with a plan, and I start with the plan, and then I start looking around, and I'm like, all right, the plan ain't working. Cool. Boom. And then I'll throw like the one go-to song that I use to like if I see that something's not working and I'm like in that middle part is
Yeah,
Two Reasons by Trey Songz. Tell the DJ turn it up, whatever they bring it back, get it like again, then we bring it like that. Like it's just
yeah.
like that song that they play when they bring out like bottles with like the sparklers and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And then I'll play
Yep.
that. And then from that point on, now I'm just giving you like hits, 50 Cent, Flow Rider. Like I'm just doing that because now that's relatable to everybody. And then I'm like this. All right, that's what's gonna be then.
I got you. No, that's super interesting.
I want to. I always wished I could be a DJ. Like I feel like a DJ. Like I like to make playlists, and I
Mhm.
love the idea of just like everybody. They kind of like worship the DJ when you're at like a real club, and right.
Yeah. So here's the thing about being everybody wants to be a DJ. Everybody wants to learn how to do it. But this is the thing, you can learn the mechanics of being a DJ. That's
Mhm.
fine. But it's in the trenches of what's the next song?
Right.
What's the next song? What's the next song? What's the next song? What's the next song? And are you going in a place that it travels to a certain area, right? So it's like, are you just, oh, I think this song will be great. Boom. There's no transition. There's no symmetry. There's no like wow factor, or you just hitting songs. I think this gonna hit. I think this gonna hit. I think this gonna hit.
Well,
Not every song is gonna hit.
how many people are improving, and how many are just pressing play on like on the mix that
Yeah.
they made? Like, what's the percentage?
Um, I don't think a lot of people aren't. I don't think a lot of people are just pressing play
Hmm.
because you can tell. The way you can tell is, do you hear the next song coming in?
Uh-huh.
And what are they doing here, right?
Hmm.
So if I pull my screen down, like I did a DJ mix the other day, and it's like, do your hand motions make sense to what's happening? Because you could be like
Okay.
this, right?
Yeah.
But it's a acapella.
Hmm.
So what are
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
doing in an acapella? Nothing. There's nothing for you to do, so you shouldn't be doing anything, right?
Hmm.
That's when you're like vibing with the crowd as if you were a fan of it. Um, but I think right now a good portion of DJs are finding creativity and blending, and finding different ways to do tricks and transitions and sounds and effects and all that kind of stuff. Like James Hype is like crazy at that.
And Mike, last question. Do you remember your first DJ gig? And how'd it
Yes.
go? Where at?
My first DJ gig was, it's gonna sound crazy, but it was in the Hamptons.
Okay.
um, and I give it up. Soul Cycle gave me all my first jobs, just because people like always were accustomed to like my music. But this writer, she had a crazy house in Southampton. She was like, Mike, I want you to play my party. I was like this. Yes, you do. So I go out and I legit thought it was a swingers party. Swear to God. Swear to God, I was DJing a swingers party. Because all of a sudden I just start seeing people leave and I'm like, where y'all going? Like, and then you start seeing like, didn't you come with this person? Oh, you in the corner. Oh, that's not who you came with. Okay, Marvin Gaye. Let's get it on. Let's see what happens. But that was my very first party in the Hamptons in Southampton, and from then on, it just kind of like it grew into high end parties, corporate
Okay.
parties, clubs, and now it's like, okay, how can I now solidify myself to be flown out somewhere?
Mm.
That's dope. I
Yeah.
yeah, I thought Derek was joking when he was saying. So I'm so fucking glad we don't.
Not only was I
He's
not
like, I'm
joking,
glad we got that settled.
bro. Not only was I not joking, I have a big vision in my mind that Mike is gonna DJ my 40th birthday party this year, and I'm still trying to figure out like how it'll all go down, but it is gonna go
Hmm.
down.
Oh, you've been thinking about that forever. Yeah,
I know.
Been thinking
I'll
about what
fly out
40
for
years.
that
Yeah, you would fly out good. That would be great because it's gonna be fucking
if
lit.
Mike's
All right.
DJ. If
Yeah,
Mike's DJ, yo, let me I'll do my music
yeah,
quick and
you
then
do
I'll
that.
throw it to you. Yo, so I think it was I want to say last night, yesterday. Metro and Future dropped a new album.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I listened to it once through. Obviously, that was my first time listening to it through. But We Don't Trust You, and that song We Don't Trust You and Young Metro are bops. I thought it was good. I would at least like put you guys on to listen to that. Yeah, I loved Metro's last album. But yeah, this one had at least like four or five that I would add to the rotation, and definitely a good album. So if you haven't already, which you probably
What is
haven't,
it, Cal? What is it about Future that you like?
honestly, just like to speak to my personal experience, bro. Like when I was growing up, probably like 60, growing up, like 16 to fucking however old I am now. When you're at the party, you're at the club, whatever. For me, one of the when I heard Future come on, it was like, okay, shit, like now let's start bopping. Like I just
Yeah.
like the way he sounds.
Hmm.
So yeah, like I actually I saw Future live in Vegas for a little bit at the Super Bowl recently, and live, okay, and but I just, man, I don't know, I just like something
Yeah.
nostalgic about Future to me, even though he's not been around for years. But for me,
Mike,
Yeah.
but and wait, I just want to say I listened to the album after you mention it, Cal, because I'm like I love Metro and I love Future.
I love
Like,
that. Yeah,
and when what that like what you're talking about a couple of years ago or whenever that was, that's when I was like super heavy into Future. I loved Future. That the song Codeine Crazy was the one that like got me into
Mhm.
Future. And then that
okay,
album right after he broke up with Ciara, like it was kind of like
Was it DLow?
Gremlin. Yeah, like when he's like really like, well,
Mhm.
with all the girls and the drugs and I don't know, I
Yeah.
was so into it. And
Related.
then the double album was so good. But this new album, I thought it was pretty good. There were a couple of songs that I listened to that were good. The one with Kendrick is I really like that, and
like
Cinderella
that's good.
and Ain't No Love. Mike, are you a Future guy? Are you
Wait a
not
minute.
a
You said
Future
which
guy?
ones? What's the song you just
This
said?
this
Anal Love?
Ain't No Love, yeah.
Ain't no love.
Ain't no love?
Yes, Ain't No Love.
It didn't sound like you
Oh,
say
that's not what I
that.
said. That's not what I heard.
No. Well, that's what I said.
Definitely, definitely heard anal love. I was like this.
No, no. Um,
Okay.
Hold up.
Yeah, right. I was like this. You keep saying it. You're not hearing it. Am I a Future fan? I'm not really a Future fan.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna
I'm
say that.
not. And it is. Does he have songs that I like? Yeah, of course. That's why I always ask, like, what do people like? Because I'm always like very interested in why people may like artists that I don't,
Uh-huh.
so I can see their perspective. So I can be like, okay, let me take another listen to it. Let me go back and listen to like that. I forgot what the purple album he had, because that was the one that I liked.
Yeah.
I did like that album.
Dirty Sprite.
Yeah, yeah, that one.
And that, yeah, and the
So
album that he did with Drake, I think he very much is like this polarizing guy where you either love him or you're really not into him.
mhm,
But I don't know. I love him. And I don't know. To me, this album, I let the first run through, it didn't like blow me away. But I think
yeah,
Metro is, I think he's the best
Crazy.
producer of this generation, if I had to say,
yeah.
like for rap.
I would agree.
Mhm. So,
So I could do my music put ons real quick, but the first thing I just want to mention is two dudes that I have put people onto on this podcast and previous episodes that are blowing up. One is that Mexican OT. He's literally everywhere now. I saw him killing it at Rolling Loud. He's been on all these on all
On the
these like
gang.
freestyle like rap things. I saw him on Sway. He was just on Joe Rogan, by the way, which I still haven't
Was,
listened to.
was he actually?
oh yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
Yeah.
see
yeah.
it.
I've seen
Yeah.
this kid around. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other one that I was gonna say is the one that I mentioned to you, Cal, in the last episode, BossMan DLow. He's got that song,
Yeah.
Get In With Me. And the reason I mentioned him is because I was watching the NC State game last night and they showed them doing a walkout and they have that big guy, DJ Burns Jr., and he was playing that song. It was awesome.
Watch out for that.
Yeah, I'm such a sucker for walkouts, like sports walkouts. So I don't know. I was like, oh shit. Like I just
Really
started,
gets you going.
it really does get me going. So
Ain't no love.
yeah, my put on is not anybody new, but I just kind of wanted to talk about her because I have such an appreciation for her. It's Cardi B, and she's got this new song out called Enough Is Enough, right? And I'm just such a fan of her because I started following her like way back in the day, like when she was on Love and Hip Hop New York. Like I remember when she was on that show, she looked totally different, right? I think she was a stripper on the show. Like she was like
Most
still,
likely.
yeah. And then just like how every scene she just popped off the screen, and she was just like unfiltered and she was hilarious. So like I remember talking to my wife about it and just being like, and us both thinking she was hilarious. and
Mhm.
and then like I think with all those types of shows it's like everybody's trying to become a rapper. You see like all these girls that are always trying to like set off their
Yeah.
careers in these shows. But then when she started her career, like it was evident right from the jump that she just like had it, and
Mhm.
obviously she's become a superstar. And I think now she's in this transition phase of her career because she broke up with Offset. And so, anyway, she dropped this track the other day called Enough Is Enough, with a few different videos where she's kind of like performing it. And it's just, to me, it's like classic Cardi. She's just got like the wordplay and she's got confidence and the flow. And then she's got this little dance. I don't know if you guys have seen it that she does and she's been doing for like the last year. And I don't know what it is about it, but I fucking love it. And I catch myself kind of like doing it.
Yeah,
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
It's like one of like I can't do it because I'm like sitting down.
Oh, you can stand up, no?
I can, but I
You
don't
don't
want
got
to.
shoes on.
I don't want to embarrass myself.
Oh, shoes.
Right, I don't have my shoes. So I just want to put you onto that song, and I want to give Cardi her flowers because I'm a fan. So that's my put on.
I haven't heard that song. I don't think.
Oh, it goes hard. Yeah, you like it. You'll dig it.
You be
Cool.
pulling up to school with blasting Cardi B? Don't lie.
I mean, yeah, I do. The answer is yes.
Social content and creators.
Let's move on to the next put on. Content, social, creators. Mike, hit us.
Andy Elliott, yo. Are you guys familiar with him?
A little bit,
I've
yes.
seen. Yeah.
Okay. So Andy Elliott he came on the scene. I want to say at the beginning of 2023. He's a he's a car salesman instructor, meaning like he does like sales trainings out in Arizona.
Yep.
And I watched his content first with him going into um, meeting rooms and conference halls and things like that, motivating people. Then you start seeing the changes, and I think you start seeing like, okay, now I'm gonna put money into content because now the content is a lot darker in a sense. The videography is way different, and he's now infusing fitness and sponsorship with his messaging. But now the messaging goes from being about salesmen to just like straight fitness. And he's getting a lot of flack from people because he's like, "You want to be rich? Don't be fat, sir. You can't say that. Take your shirt off. Look at yourself in the mirror. Can't do that either."
Right.
But these guys, like, I think like he has a solid demographic of guys that are like 21 to like 28. The guys that are like in college, want to come out of college, want to be like type A salesmen, want to be the best salesman. He's like, you want to make $1 million a year? This is what you got to do. Follow my thing, right? So I signed up for his newsletter. That was the most I was going to do. Signed up for the newsletter. And a lot of things that he does say in regards to salesmanship, I've used, and it works.
Uh-huh.
He's basically changing the conversation about if any of you came into my store and you were like, "Oh, I'm just looking." Usually, 90% of the time, we all just go, "All right, cool, whatever. You're not buying nothing." But opposed to flipping that into, "Oh, what are you looking for?" Now I caught you because now you can't say anything. You're like, "Oh, well, no, I'm just looking." Right? What are you looking for? Looking for Nike? Looking for a Yeezy? Looking for a New Balance? Oh, no, 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 no. I mean, like, I don't need any help. Okay, but you're not looking for anything. Like he just teaches you different ways to not lose a sale, and that can be transferable to anything. But his content is like definitely changed from that to being like more fitness based and um physical exterior
It
about himself.
sounds like some persuasion stuff. Like it reminds me of like when we were talking about kind of what was it, that book Influence. But also every video I've seen of the guy, he seems really scary, like
Yeah.
intimidating. Is he?
hmm
And,
It's his
He's
style.
he's I think he wants to be polarizing very fast.
uh-huh.
So I think the only way that you can become polarizing very fast and you're speaking in front of people is you have to say very brash things that are catching people's attention. I think a lot of it is clickbait too. Like
Yeah.
put the right text up, get the clicks, get the shares, get all of that. So he becomes the evil guy.
Uh-huh. It's funny.
Like
It's funny because Steve, our producer, was on one of our episodes like 2 or 3 episodes ago, and he put us
mhm,
onto this creator who basically like parodies Andy Elliott. So Andy Elliott's on the
mhm,
thumbnail, and I was telling Steve,
yeah,
like, Steve, don't put him on the thumbnail because we didn't put people onto him. We put him onto some creator that was
parody.
basically like making fun of him in a way. But yeah, I've seen that guy's clips, and it's interesting that you say like his thing is that he's polarizing because it does seem like if you're a content creator and you choose to be like a guy that's polarizing or a girl that's polarizing, yeah, it's going to alienate half of the people, but it's also going to get you attention. And it is like, it seems like an effective strategy in terms of
Yeah.
just like building, your audience. And
Mhm.
so, okay. What
I
is,
feel like I think
yeah.
the two, just with what you touched on, Mike, around like how he's going after the 21 to 28-year-old, want to make $1 million. Like he's really clickbaity in that sense. You'd probably, especially if he is polarizing, his audience would have such an affinity to that sort of content and him just as a person because they would probably think and feel the same way and really connect to him in that way. Whereas if he was kind of on the fence about things,
Yeah.
I did see him early days, some of his old stuff, and you're right, it's different.
Yeah, he does a lot of he shows like a lot of his old sales videos when he was like at a whiteboard like this and this wearing like a suit and
Yeah.
tie and stuff. And now they show him him and his wife. His wife works with him too. I got a hot wife. We have sex every day. I'm like, I don't want to know that. But then again, he has to showcase what he showcases. He gives his team Breitling watches. He gives them Hublot watches. He gives them we're flying private. Like now he shows that. So now what does that do? That's polarizing to that demographic because that is what most of us still want to this day at some points in times in our lives. But that specific demographic of 27 to 28, where you're really trying to figure out who you're trying to be and what you want to be, that's the first thing that you're going to be like, yeah, I want to be like him.
Is
So
that
what am I going to do? I'm getting the gym and I'm gonna cut out sugar and I'm gonna cut out drinking. He was like, yeah, cut out porn. I was like, all right.
it's kind of like, is it kind of like the Andrew Tate audience in a way? What you said?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
100%. 100%. Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
That's
Do you have any other either creators or content that you want to put us onto as it relates to social?
I mean, I love Lou Young because I'm a big parody guy. Like I love watching guys recreate stuff that I watch. So Lou Young, he does everything from Shannon Sharp to BMF shows and then they create like their own stuff, and he just does it in a way that I relate to. And you like Derek, you've seen like when I do like the Uncle Claude stuff.
Yeah.
I love guys that become like old men
Yeah.
and act like old, like your old uncle and stuff. So I love guys that do that. So Lou Young is another one.
All right. We'll check out Lou Young. I'm actually not familiar with him, but
Yeah, I've never seen
You've seen.
him.
Cal,
Derek,
you want to go or you want me to go?
you go. You go.
You go. All right. So I got this one handle, not a creator, and then I have I have a creator. The handle is one that I stumbled upon called How Songs Are Created, at How Songs Are Created. And it basically shows videos of different artists in the studio as they were creating their hit songs. So it's like a lot of this behind the scenes type footage. And the reason that it really hits for me is because it kind of reminds me of one of my favorite documentaries of all time, which is the Jay-Z doc Fade to Black. I don't know. Have either of you seen that documentary before?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Such an incredible documentary. Cal, have you seen it or no?
Haven't seen it. No.
So it's all about when Jay-Z was like going to quote unquote retire, and he was doing his last album, the Black Album. Obviously it wasn't his last album. And then he was like doing like a bunch of shows. And the reason why it was so incredible is because basically they have all this behind the scenes footage of him in the studio. And like on that album, it's just all legendary producers. So basically it's like, it's showing him in the studio with Timberland when Timberland's playing him the beat for Dirt Off Your Shoulder for the first time. And then he's like trying to like write to it. And then Kanye playing him Encore for the first time. And then Pharrell playing him Allure. And then Rick Rubin playing him 99 Problems. And then you just watch as he starts like putting the songs together. And to me, like as like a lifelong hip hop fan, and the way that Jay-Z kind of like writes songs, which is he doesn't actually write them. He just kind of like, thinks about it in his head. And then he just goes in the booth and just like lays down a verse, which is incredible. But I always thought to myself, like, I would watch this a million times over. Like anytime somebody's trying, like showing a producer with a hit song, playing it for that artist for the first time and like seeing their eyes light up and then just kind of showing the process. It's amazing. So basically, yeah, I think there really aren't too many clips on that page. It's a relatively new clip, but I love kind of the angle to it. So check that out, How Songs Are Created. And then the second creator I have is this is a random one, but I stumbled upon this guy's videos. His name is Wade Shaver. Again, this is kind of like musical related. This guy, Wade Shaver, at Wade Shaver, is just some unassuming dad who's got 3 young kids, all under the age of like 7 or 8 years old. And he's obviously a hip hop fan. And so his videos are just him sitting around like either at a kitchen table while his kids are eating dinner, or like in a basement while they're just like hanging out. And he has one of those Disney karaoke, like toy machines with like a microphone like that's attached to a speaker. And so what he does is he'll play an instrumental of like a classic rap song, and then he'll rap the song like a kid friendly like rendition. And so like there's one of him doing the song Triumph by Wu-Tang. There's one of him doing Go
Whoa.
DJ, like the Lil Wayne song. There's the Jay-Z song A Million. And like, so it's like, and he does like the ad libs, and he'll do like, even the intro. So I wrote this down, but like, just as an example, it's like that Jay-Z song. I guess his daughter's like Evie. So he's like, I did it again, Evie. I know what you're asking yourself. Will daddy ever fall off? Like and so he substitutes words, you know? A lot of speculation on the monies I've made, honeys I've slayed. How is he for real? Is that daddy really paid? Like that's kind of like the vibe of it all. But he does it so like deadpan too. It's hilarious. And anyways, just it's very clever, silly, super relatable, because I'm obviously a dad who loves rap music and I always play it for my kids. And I think it just goes back to showing how many talented people there are out there on social who are just doing these little random quirky videos that people love and who can develop like a big following. So check out Wade Shaver on TikTok. That's my put on.
That sounds hilarious.
Very fun.
Yeah, I gotta watch that. I've got two just quick. One of them on TikTok, the Language Lord. It's kind of like Derek, like you, that one guy Diego, who you put me onto like super early days, where he does like man on the street kind of interviews. That's what this guy does, except like he's got probably every language in the book in his range, in the sense that like he'll go up to like good looking woman and he'll be like, he'll be like, where are you from? Whatever. And they say somewhere random and he'll start speaking their language. And then most of the time, like they can't get it. So then he'll be like, yo, okay, like, can you guess this language? And he just starts like spitting, in all these different languages. I'm like, holy shit, he can say the same thing in 20 different languages. And he's just like, again, it's most of the time just like out after a night out or, and so check him out. He's
I've
like
seen his
super talented.
videos. I've seen a million of his
guy.
videos. I'm very familiar with him, and I'm always like kind of jealous of him, just that he can just walk up to
Yeah.
any random girl and just start speaking their language. And they're always impressed. But like that's such an incredible
Crazy
skill to have, right? To just like,
Yeah.
What I'm saying.
yeah.
Where's he from?
He's based. I want to say he's based in like Miami.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say Miami too. Yo, real quick on that note, have you guys ever seen that dude? He's just like some like random white dude. I think his handle is Diverse Dialects, and he's kind of similar thing, but he speaks like crazy languages. Like he speaks like Cantonese and he speaks like Yiddish, and my favorite, he speaks Nigerian. I think it's called Yoruba.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard of that dude?
Yeah.
Diverse
I
Dialects.
never heard of him. Mm-hmm.
No.
Incredible. Same kind of note, but it's like a little bit different. Whereas this guy is kind of trying to just mac on a bunch of girls. The guy Diverse Dialects is just going into like, different random like countries or like places in within America. And then he's just like, they're always the reactions to him are always crazy, because it's like, holy shit, this guy is some white dude that just like knows how to speak Yoruba. Like how, like, and they're always, it's fun. It's good shit to watch. Cal, you got another one?
Well, yeah, I got one more, but yo, just on that note, because I took living overseas, I took Mandarin, like Chinese, for years, and so being able to go over to China a couple times and just like order and like speak, and obviously being a white guy, people are like, what the fuck? So yeah, I've got the reaction before, and it's hilarious. Yo, my second put on the creators is it's a relatively new page, barely any followers, Athletes and Assets. It's on IG. They probably got a TikTok as well. But it's interesting stuff around. They kind of like go in depth on different, NBA players, NFL players, different athletes, and like, their business ventures outside of sports. So like I saw a post on like what Russ is doing, with his like different franchise and like being in the auto industry and, starting business with it. And it's just like Athletes and Assets, just from a purely like, I love sports. And so seeing some of these guys in the different business ventures they've done outside of that, yeah, it's more informational, but that's a page I would check out, Athletes and Assets.
When you said Russ, you're talking about Russell Wilson or who? Which Russ?
No, Westbrook. Sorry,
Westbrook.
Oh, Russ
Yeah.
Westbrook. Okay.
not Wilson. Um,
Yeah, because I know
let's
Russell
move
Wilson's
on.
got some side ventures, right? Like, and we have some friends that are involved with some of those ventures. So that's who I thought you were talking
Yeah, nah, I've had a week with that venture. I got to tell you about it after. I've had a week with the venture that you and I are both thinking about.
Podcasts.
Let's move on to podcasts. We'll get into the next put on segment, podcast. Mike, what you got?
So Nick Cannon started one called Consult Culture, and it's a play on words of like cancel culture, right? And
Yeah.
the thing that spoke to me best about it was one episode that I saw him and this guy DeVon Franklin, who's a preacher and motivational speaker and businessman in California. DeVon Franklin used to be married to Megan Good,
about.
and obviously we all know Nick Cannon was married to Mariah, and then now somehow he's got 13 more kids or whatever it is. But I had never seen two guys talk about getting divorced, being in high profile marriages, dealing with the mediocrity of divorce, being in a divorce publicly, and dealing with just those type of issues. I've never seen a space where two guys were talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of like really, really shocked me that Nick, because we all know Nick from Wildin' Out and, Mass Singer and like all these different places, for him to be in a visceral place like that to speak about this kind of stuff. So that's the one that I've kind of been jumping into lately.
Have you listened to any more beyond that episode, or was it just that one?
That one was the first one that I jumped on, and so I'm working my way through it. But that one just stood out to me first. I don't know. I don't even remember how I came across it.
You said it's a relatively new pod?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Consult culture. Yeah.
Consult culture. Yeah.
Is it consult or counsel culture?
Counsel. My bad. Counsel culture. I keep saying it up.
There we go. Got him.
That's funny. That's funny.
Counsel culture. There you go.
I want to check that out because I think when you're talking about it, it's like, obviously that's like a very vulnerable thing to go through is like a divorce and kind of speak about, the pain of that. And so that's interesting to me. I'll check it out. Cal, you want to give us yours?
Yeah, I'll go. The pod that I have just recently come across that is kind of new as well is Nick Kyrgios, the Australian tennis player. He's sort of like, he's bad boy on the tour or whatever. He does things different. And I think he's got 4 episodes out now. And it's just a very wide array of guests, but like he had Gordon Ramsay on, and then he had Jay Shetty, and he recently had Gary. And obviously, like, we're in that world. But it's just super interesting to me. I've listened to a couple of them and just like, to hear him talk about, being authentic to who he is and just like the journey of tennis is such like a, white collar sport and everyone's very, to the T. And he like talks about everyone else's journey, like Gordon Ramsay had, and him doing things differently in that space. Obviously, Gary doing things differently in his space, Jay Shetty playing in that field. And the dialogue that he has is super, he's super funny guy, charismatic. So it's good. It's a good listen. Nick Kyrgios, Good Trouble is the podcast.
He's like from what I know of him, like he's a bad boy and he's been involved in all types of controversy. Does he touch on any of that stuff, or is it more so just like interviewing other people? And
he definitely touches on the fact that he thinks it's all bullshit. Like all he's like, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. He's just kind of got that fuck it mentality, which I like about him because he is true to himself. So yeah, he definitely touches on some of the stuff that he's been accused of and gotten in trouble for.
It's crazy that so many of these athletes are doing podcasts now, right? Like everybody.
Because they all got their own audience,
Right. Yeah. They have a built-in audience. And I was saying this to Cal I think it was maybe like 2 episodes ago. We were just talking about like the thing around this disruption of traditional sports media and how all of these athletes are now getting into the space, and it really is like this movement. And I mean, it kind of segues into my podcast. I have 2 of them. One of them is I decided, you know, I'm a diehard Knicks fan, and I was gonna check out the roommate show. It's the one with Jalen, Brunson, and Josh Hart.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to,
Yeah.
like, you know, give it a chance, and especially because the guest that they had on was Action Bronson, who's like one of my favorites. Just
Yeah.
yeah, so funny. And you know, there were a couple of things that I just like noticed right away. And one is like, these guys clearly, like, they weren't classically trained radio hosts, right? Like, it's more so like they're just, you know, having like a casual banter between them. And the thing that I liked about it was like, you could tell that Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart have like a hilarious relationship. Like, they just talk so much shit to each other. They're always kind of like just like messing with each other. And then Action Bronson is just, I've always been such a fan of the guy. I very much admire him and just like his creativity and all the things that he does, because he's a very well-known rapper and a chef, and he's an artist, and he's just always kind of reinventing himself. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good episode. I don't know if I'd listen to like a lot of those uh, episodes, but I needed to at least check it out, and I was mildly impressed. The other one that I was going to mention is I'm a big fan of this Rick Rubin podcast I mentioned before called Tetragrammaton. He had on a guest that I want to ask you about, Mike. This guy named Tremaine Emory. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah, yeah, that's the guy that runs Denim Tears, and he was head designer for Supreme.
Yeah, he was the
Denim,
creative director for
the
Supreme.
brand with the rocking. Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
So I actually knew nothing about Denim Tears. Didn't know that he was the creative director for Supreme. Really knew nothing about the guy. And just I'm really into Rick Rubin's podcast, so I've just been listening to pretty much every episode. But I thought that I just loved. I thought this guy was just really interesting and well spoken, super thoughtful. Obviously, you could tell how creatively talented he is. But he had like a really interesting story, and he kind of like took it all the way back to, you know, he kind of started in Atlanta, and then his family moved him to New York, and he kind of came up during a time that I kind of came up in, like, and so a lot of the stuff that he was influenced by and inspired by was a lot of the stuff that I was influenced and inspired by as a kid, like hip hop and kind of just like New York culture. And then he, like, you know, kind of fell into this crew with like Virgil and all those guys, and he was in London. And yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting podcast. I would say, Mike, you got to check out this Rick Rubin podcast, Tetragrammaton, because it's very different than all the other ones, and just like a lot of creative people, but also the style of the podcast is really unique. And I've talked to Cal about it. Like, each episode, like, they don't do an intro; it just starts like mid conversation. Yeah. Like, you just like kind of have you listened to any of those podcast by chance or no?
I haven't, but I know the style, and I have seen that episode float around. I just didn't know what podcast it was from, because it was only like a reshare or something. So I was just like, what? Like, where is? Because I've seen a lot of Tremaine Emory interviews, but I hadn't seen this one.
Yeah.
And I've always liked that style of where you just start talking and you're like a fly off the wall. Yeah, you just come right in.
Right. And this guy is obviously, like, you know, steeped in fashion. And so I think, you know, it would definitely be something that you would be down to listen to. And I think you would relate to a lot of the stuff. So those are the 2 that I would put you guys on to.
Books and articles.
What do you got next?
I know you got a book. Do you want to give a book?
Yes, I got one book. And it's
takeaways after.
Yeah. Mike, remind me, are you a book guy? You're not a book guy, right?
For the 27th time, I do not read books.
All right, so this is why I want to.
And I say that not as like I don't like reading. It's just I have a hard time staying attentive to it.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, so here's the reason why I want to put you onto this book. So let me just back up. It's called Ikigai: The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life. It's by Hector, Garcia, and Francesc Miralles. Okay, I have it actually.
Stop right there.
You
Stop right there.
what?
Say the title again. It's about who?
It's called Ikigai. Ikigai. I actually have it right here. Ikigai.
Okay.
Boom.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very little book. It's like not that many pages, maybe like 170 pages. So it's quick.
But keep going through the title.
The Japanese Secret to a Long.
Stop right there.
Yeah.
And it's by who? Name the authors?
It's by Hector, Garcia, and Francesc Miralles.
You're right.
You see what I'm saying? Cal
I just booked that. Yeah.
Even though it's about a Japanese
Hector Garcia.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Let's take it easy. Listen, on that point, there's a show that me and Cal have talked about called Blue Zones, right? And in Blue Zones, it's all about these places in the world where they have the most amount of centenarians, which are people that live to be 100 years old or more. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so one episode is about Okinawa, Japan. And so there's a lot of crossover with this book. Okay. So here's the thing. The crazy thing about it is that I bought it on a Thursday in February. And the next morning I woke up and I was on Instagram and I saw that my mom sent me like some video and it was all about finding your Ikigai. And then I got that book that day and like, what are the fucking chances? Like the most crazy coincidence. Like,
crazy.
I called her up and I'm like, I ordered a book about this random Japanese word. Okay. Anyways. So basically Ikigai translates to reason for being, but more specifically, it's the intersection between your passion, your mission, your vocation, which is like your calling, and your profession. Okay. So basically the book examines how finding your Ikigai can lead to a fulfilling and purposeful life. And so one of the main ways that they do this is they delve into the principles behind longevity and happiness in certain Japanese communities, specifically Okinawa. And yes, it's a great book. It offers like some practical insights and exercises. And there's like, this is what my mom sent me. I actually like printed it out. It's like a Zen diagram basically, where it's split up between what you love, what the world needs, what you could be paid for, and what you're good at. And then passion, profession, vocation, mission. And basically where that overlaps is your Ikigai. So it's like a really interesting thing to kind of figure out, and it will help you kind of like think through basically what potentially is your purpose. And the last thing I would say about it is just that they have like these 10 rules of Ikigai, and I'm just going to rattle them off as like a little teaser in case you ever do want to read it, because each one of these they kind of go into in more granular detail. But the 10 rules are: stay active / like don't retire, take it slow, don't fill your stomach, which is an interesting one. It's basically saying like all these people that live very long, they eat till they're like 75% full. And then like they won't eat till they're full, which is an interesting little thing. Surround yourself with good friends, get in shape for your next birthday. I don't know why it's your next birthday. It's pretty specific, but okay. Smile, kind of corny, but there's actually health benefits to it. Reconnect with nature, give thanks, live in the moment. And the last one is follow your Ikigai. And I wrote down this quote that was associated with it, or just like a line in the book. And it's: there's a passion inside you, a unique talent that gives meaning to your days and drives you to share the best of yourself until the very end. So if you don't know what your Ikigai is yet, your mission is to discover it. And I don't know why. I just think like, I think it would speak to you, Mike Press. Cal, I know it would speak to, but like, I feel like you would dig it.
You said 170 pages?
Yeah, it's short.
I could do that.
And the pages are small. It's a very little book. So it's like,
I could do 170.
Yeah, you would get through. I think I read it in like a day or two. What's that, Cal?
171 might take me out, but 170.
No, 170 is a good number. Yeah, I like that length of book.
Yeah, quick read, and I don't know. Just I
I
feel like
still think though that's hilarious that you're talking about they talk through the specific spot in Japan, but it's Hector, Garcia, and whoever
Yeah,
else. Were they living in Japan? Like what was going on? Like it's not.
well, I think, look, when you're outside of a culture and you're seeing something interesting happening, right? Like sometimes that's who it is
That
the most
perspective.
interesting to, right? Like
yeah,
obviously somebody living in that culture, they're already like in the culture. They don't need to like write about what they're doing. So when somebody outside of it sees like, holy shit, these people are doing something where they're A, happier, they're B, like living longer lives, and then they're noticing all of these things that they're doing, whether it has to be with their diet, whether it has to be with like how they move and operate, and these different little things of like because I remember even with blue zones, like one of the
Blue
reasons
zones.
that they all live longer is they have these little groups of people that are just friends that all support each other. And if you think about like the way people are in America, where you send like, the elderly off to a nursing home and they're just like by themselves, these people like support each other.
yeah,
And they're saying one of the reasons they live longer is just by hanging out with their friends. Kind of makes sense,
Well,
right?
yeah.
because
That
they
probably brings in the smile factor too.
Yeah, right. Like,
and
well, Cal, go
don't they
ahead.
say don't they say that one of the leading causes of death is loneliness,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
from a health perspective.
I remember watching Blue Zones, and they asked this woman who was like 98 years old, they were like, what do you think the key is? And she's like, I laugh a lot and I don't ever get mad. And I'm like, that makes sense. Right.
man.
Right. Like, yeah, don't get
It's-
mad. You probably never have any stress if you're just like purposely
Yeah,
happy all the time, and try not to have like, any of that frustration or all those things. Cause I mean, you hear it a million times, but like stress and all of that, it leads to cancer, it leads to all of these diseases. So I
yeah,
don't know. To me, the part that really I love is just the whole like, for somebody that's always trying to figure out my life and trying to figure out like what my purpose is. I like this like little diagram of just like, what do you
That's
love?
cool.
What are you good at? What does the world need? And what can you be paid for? Actually makes a lot of sense. Wherever that overlaps. Okay. Still haven't figured it out though.
Life takeaways.
With all that being said, let's get into the last segment. Let's do life takeaways. Mike, what do you got?
life takeaways. I've been, and it kind of speaks to how I even met Derek, is that you're one conversation away from getting the thing that you want. I found that sometimes if you don't speak to what it is that you want, if you don't talk about it, how is anybody going to know that could potentially help you? I think we live in a culture now where everybody is no, 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 no. You can't know what I'm doing. Like keeping everything here, but then you're crying out for people to help you, but nobody knows what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like people are trying to keep their thing such a secret. No, don't talk about what you're doing. But then when you bring it out and the response is not what you expected it to be, you're upset and mad at folks, but you didn't want to tell anybody about what it is that you were doing. You didn't want to talk about it. You didn't want to let it out there. So I've learned that you're one conversation away from the thing that you actually want.
It's so true, and I feel like especially in today's day and age with social media and just the world of the internet, you really can reach out to someone and actually have a conversation with said individual now more than
Mm-hmm.
ever.
Yeah.
No, that's a good one. I like that. I like that.
Wait, I just want to say
Derek,
one
I
thing on that note real quick, which is just
yeah,
like, what it reminds me, Cal, of is like whenever I have like these random ideas or like these like entrepreneurial thoughts, and a lot of times I'm like an open book and I'll just tell people. And Cal a lot of times will
yeah.
be to me like, bro, like, are you sure that you should just be telling everybody, your ideas and things? Are you afraid that somebody's going to steal it? And I'm of the opinion of just like, yeah, somebody could potentially steal it, but I'd rather just like spark the conversation or like share the idea that maybe somebody is going to be inspired to be like, you know what, you have somebody that you should speak to, or maybe we should partner up. And so I never really hold those things in. And I'm always trying to just be really open about, the things that I am kind of like excited by or I'm passionate about. Do you want me to go
Yeah,
into my takeaway or no?
yeah, but before you do, my
Yeah,
comment to you is whether you know what an NDA is or not, which is why we
I do
we
know.
have those conversations because I mean, yeah, you have your style, and you're trusting, which is amazing. So that was my only thing, whether you knew what an NDA was or
I do. I don't fuck with NDAs, and I'm very not litigious. I just don't like involving
not.
lawyers
NDA.
and things, and then all of a sudden I got to pay like a couple $1,000. Like, no thanks. Um, Anyways, my takeaway is kind of similar to Mike's in a way, and it's specific to him. So obviously we talked a little bit about my relationship with Mike and working together on this show. And the interesting part of how we first met was that we were screen testing potential hosts. I know Mike kind of talked about this on a different podcast. Cal, you're not aware of this, but we were screen testing potential hosts for our show. And we needed some people to be guests, right? To kind of like do these screen tests. And Mike was local. He was in Hudson Yards. And we had a mutual friend, our girl Ash Shim, shout out to Ash, right? So Mike agreed to come in and be a guest. And so he was really just doing us a favor to be the guest on a screen test that was really never going to see the light of day and was meant to just audition a few hosts, including the CEO of the company, right? Who was the one that was interviewing Mike. So we had 3 different hosts that were interviewing 3 different guests. The CEO of the company is interviewing Mike. And the long story short is that he kind of stole the show and was super charismatic and funny and insightful and introspective. And basically, like, when you were in the room, you kind of knew right away, like, who the fuck is this guy? And after we watched it back, me and the production team, we all felt like, okay, he's the guy, right? And to me, the lesson here was that he was able to capitalize on the opportunity when there really wasn't even an opportunity there, right? By just being himself, kind of letting his natural talent shine. And then we started working together, and like I said, we developed this really good chemistry. And there was this one thing I would always say to him before every show, right? For every recording of all of the interviews. And it was something that one of my best friends, Roni Crevel, shout out to Roni, used to say to me, which is, give him the razzle dazzle, right? Give him the razzle dazzle. I would say to Mike, yo, just remember, give him the razzle dazzle. And what that always meant to me was to show them basically like what you can do, right? Tap into your natural talent and creativity, entertain them, right? Like, you're about to record a show, like we're on a podcast. I think
You
it to
you
myself all
say
the
that,
time. I say it to me,
you
I
said
say
it,
it to myself mentally. I'm like, give them the razzle dazzle,
bro.
Derek.
What the last pod back, you and me, the start of it, you said, let's razzle dazzle. 100%. I didn't even watch it back. I can guarantee on the last pod you said that.
Well, the end to this story is that, yeah, I gave it to, I used to say that to him as a reminder, but for the most part, he didn't need it because, like that first screen test, he's always kind of ready to turn it on. He's always ready to kind of shine his light, and he's always ready to give him the razzle dazzle. So my takeaway today is that reminder to all of the people out there that do content, who entertain, or even if you're just like at work and you give presentations and you're trying to impress people, like, fucking don't hold back. Give them the razzle dazzle.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And just to say this was that, believe it or not, I was nervous in a few interviews, and you saying that was always like that was like that was like the
Right.
like, all right, let's go. So that always did kind of like settle me down like internally. So I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Isn't it weird though how sometimes like you forget, like you jump on something and you're like kind of like stiff and you're like answering questions, and like it really is like you kind of need that reminder of, what are we doing here? Like, we're just like, we're talking shit, like we're like trying to like entertain, maybe some people will see it, maybe some people won't, but if you're not thinking about the fact, like, you are on a show and the purpose of a show is either to provide some sort of entertainment value or educational value or whatever, then you're just kind of wasting your time. So like in the back of your mind, you always got to remember, you got to bring it, you got to show people like what you're capable of and why you're interesting and why you have something to say. So Cal, finish us off.
I used to say Razzle Dazzle right before a game would start in footy. We'd be like, let's Razzle Dazzle, and we bag 3 goals and win. So I can get behind that. I like that. Mine is just a reminder. I've said this in the past. This is a pretty well known quote, but I just want to bring it back up because I feel like it's relevant to me right now, and probably majority is that, again, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. I just think that, again, like, in today's day and age, and with a million different things going on, and, so many things you see online and so much stimulus, it's like most of the time we're overthinking things. Most of the time, you're so caught in your head, whether it's reaching out to have that conversation, whether it's how a conversation went, whether it's, any interaction we have. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you can learn to, tap into your mental and really get into the weeds and control that and keep pushing forward, I think that 10% of what happens to you is that, and 90% what you think of it. So that's my takeaway and just where my head's at right now.
I like that. I mean, bro, I'm so in my head, and I'm always kind of like doing the opposite percentage there, right? I'm like, and I think most people do that. I think most people really like they can't control it, especially like you said, in this world where you're on social media and you're just constantly getting all of this like stimuli. It's really hard to not think about the past and think about the future and overthink everything. So it's a good little lesson right there.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it there. Yeah, no, Mike, appreciate you. Good to meet you. I know this is the first time we've met. Hopefully many more. And appreciate you coming on.
No, man, I thank y'all for having me on, and to now I'm going to figure out what my Ikigai is. But no, it's actually, that's something that spoke to me, and I'm glad you brought it up because you do know me. And so I'm gonna go actually try to find the book, and I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna follow up with you about that.
Listen, find your Ikigai. Just don't be an icky guy. Okay, there's a difference.
All right. I knew you was gonna do it at least one.
I can't, bro. It's dad jokes. Can't help myself. Later, fellas.
Peace.
Thank you for tuning into the Put On Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and don't forget to follow us on social at the Put On Pod.